幸せなんて壊してやる。
Watch out, y'all! He's got a knife! No. Mushroom. Mushroom. Never mind, y'all. It's mushroom. No one cares about mushrooms like that.
It's me!
Honestly thought that we were going to go into the rest of this first arc in a slow burn, but Gotchard episode 3 cranks up the pacing up to a 20 and takes what should have been 2 separate episodes and crams them into one. Really a departure from last week as we get right to it with this week's Kamen Rider Gotchard. We get reminded quickly that this is indeed a kid's show when random psycho with a bad haircut pulls a knife out in front of happy folks when the shrooms kick on in, knocking folks into hysteria. On the other side, however, we have Hotaru entering his Kota arc, just being happy about his Chemi story. So school life brings us his 2 other classmates, Ringe, who tries pawning off Chemi cards on Hotaru, and Tsuruhara, who lets his tablet do all the talking. The school lessons are simple: catch the Chemies. And apparently, they've already done some of the dirty work off screen. And that's Hotaru's whole thing. Full-on friendship! I mean, look at that grin! This is the most aggressive smile that even Rine has gone back to sipping on that haterade. Staying in line with Kota, he also gets the Kota card from Minato just to see if he can liven things up, while everyone gets assigned a dual disc. Rine catches piracy, while Stranger Danger catches eyes on her. Also, he's already amalgam that we don't even get to see that change. But we already have another amalgam to revisit with Hotaru's friend happily catching the Shroomsteria, giving Hotaru ample time to show up and get Bushido bladed on, only to rush right into a rider kick just to still get caught. It's here that he fails epically and all fades to black as Minato rushes on in. Raiding to— oh, it's not over yet? This is the halfway point. Really, so much just happened. Okay, alright. Luckily, everyone, including Hotaru, has been cured up, thanks to an antidote made well over 10 years ago that has an amazing shelf life. Did you guys also cure all the people that were laughing it up since the beginning of the episode? Because that happened the night before. I'm pretty sure they're probably dead or their lungs have combusted, which also means they're dead. Oh, we're just gonna forget that detail. They probably cured them behind the scenes. While Rine Minato handled the business, Hotaru goes to deepen his bond with his brand new card, just to get interrupted by Graduate, who just can't keep the school alone. He doesn't think that Hotaru is up to the task of being Kamen Rider, and that he should be that guy instead, taking the sticks to him, but you can't really beat the power of friendship. But, you know, Chemies are tools. They have no place in this world. But that head has a place on your chest. Awakening Apare Bushido Chemi and making the adult in the room give up. Now let's see how business is going on with the others. Pretty good, with actual alchemy being used as well. But Hotaru shows up just to show off, and Skebo wants in on the new matchup, giving us Gotchard's Apare Skebo form, complete with minimal effort wild form and pump and dump action, slicing the shroom in 2 before taking the tornado to his ass. No one ever tell this guy that cool guys don't look at explosions? I guess he ain't so cool then, but Predator Guy sure thinks he is, stalking up Rine and getting everybody sunk just for actual cool guy to show on up and transform himself. Introducing Valverade. With this episode of Gotchard, we get the debut of Gotchard's Apare Bushido form and Valverade. So with that, let's talk form. Apare Bushido just feels off with the balance on the legs being so bare. Those shoes though? What are those? Heelys are apparently trying to make a comeback with board form, and it's not something that we wanted. Gotchard's forms seem a little back to basics in the aesthetics, but overall, I'm just meh when it comes to the samurai upper half. It's gonna have to be a D for me. Valverade, on the other hand, seems like more effort was put on that suit, as the close-ups give us a nice weathering effect to the paint job. It's lived in contrast to the shiny newness of Gotchard. The coloration matches Mad Wheel, but the design itself is more based on his transformation device, which is a giant wrench sword. I really like the implementation of that on the helmet as well, so this one would be getting a solid A from me. Actual rating time! This episode really had the makings of a Franken episode, with two monsters crammed into one plot, a mismanagement of events, which gives it pacing whiplash from last week's more down-to-earth episode. Thus, well, I actually just gotta give this episode the Dab Hand D! I'm sensing a formula with these amalgams, as they really just are introduced with no proper lead-up. Last week was just conveniently showing up in the playground where Skebo was at. This time, we get a psycho guy with a knife conveniently by the Venom Dake Chemi. And the other guy already had his in his possession? Yeah, no, these are Sentai levels of one-dimensional depth, and they really are just steamrolling through all these amalgams. As we also see that several of the Chemies are just being caught off-screen by Minato and the other classmates at the academy. Spanner Kutagane was properly introduced this week after being teased last week, but his introduction also lacked much substance, as we also get quickly introduced to Hotaro's other classmates this week after a short appearance at the end of last week's. And look, design-wise, Valverade is great, but the thing to really take in, that was alluded to here, is the Greater Alchemy Society, as it's not just relegated to the Academy, but there is a larger network out there that we really don't know about yet, which those are the ones responsible for sending out Spanner, while he's also gotten Chemies of his own. But if there's only 101 out there, at least, you know, as they're saying, we know there's gonna be more. And they also have a whole organization, you'd think that a lot of this would have gotten wrapped up much more quickly. Which brings me to another negative aspect of this episode. The cure for the Chemi's abilities. Sure, this was used as a way to shut Hotaro's overconfidence down, but the fact that everything was resolved without his involvement kinda shows how unnecessary he actually is. Throughout the episode, they kept alluding to the abilities of the Kamen Rider in relation to the events going on. But so far, it seems like they actually are more than capable of handling things without one. Especially since, once again, they've captured several behind the scenes without him. Even Tsuruhara got one. That man hates people. Rine is a character that I thought we would start seeing the cracks in the uppity attitude last week, and that shit took a step back as she starts seeming more resentful of Hotaro. She looked like she was coming over to his side in liking Chemies, but then made an entire about face when that was his whole arc this episode. I guess next week we might get a proper payoff to things for her, but in reality it seems like the early attempts at character progression for Rine are just running all out of order. There are a few more setups this week, but if it plays out the way that it appears to, then this is a pretty cookie cutter, easy to figure out who the real bad guy is type thing. Previously, I talked about Minato's appearance and how he kinda gave me secret yet not so secret bad guy vibes. Then this week, we get Valverade, and I mean, look at this guy. Does anything about him scream good guy? Now, what do these two have in common? The Alchemist Academy. Now, Rine's father took the Chemies and ran off from this organization, which clearly points to them as some sort of bad guys. Or being so up on their moral high ground that it just can't be considered good. Hell, even Spanner was talking rules and regulations as he was transforming into Valverade. Which brings us to the purpose of Hotaro's arc, as he treats the Chemies as living beings that they are versus the objects the others treat them as. And the hero's journey will literally become one of those of understanding, which is about as vanilla as they can make it. So look, here's to hoping that the show is not as basic as it appears and we actually do get some shakeups. And another thing, while last season we did end up getting top tier fight choreography to distract from some of the lows, Gotchard so far has not come close to the spectacle of those fights. And then the other thing is really just chill with the pacing, guys. Last week, I had optimism. This week, you're completely taking that away. Don't blow your load too early, or don't try ramping up the story like that if it doesn't need to. Anyway, those are my thoughts. What are yours? What did you think about this week's Gotchard? How did you feel about the dual antagonists? How about the new cast introduction and Valverade's debut? Anyway, that's it from me. Until next time, bye.